Good question.
Okay, Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, at 7 o'clock, let's get this work session call to order. Roll call, please.
Vianney,
Here.
Pasanello,
Present.
Cater,
Here.
Person,
Here.
Schneider, Ramirez,
Here.
Gallagher.
Here.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next agenda item, we have the citizens' comments for the strategic plan. Start off with the audience, if anybody in the audience wants to contribute.
I have no comments right now. I really wanted to hear what anyone else was going to say. I did glance over it, but I have no comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
We'll move on to email.
Okay, Mayor and Council, you had two emails that came in on this subject. One was from a person that lives in Gainesville. She said, the Haymarket Town Council issued a draft strategic plan for the upcoming 1 to 3 year period. I appreciate the transparency. I see fostering economic development as a priority. It is very hard to support local businesses like CVS, Chick-fil-A, Virginia National Bank, and the new dentist with the current traffic pattern in and around that area. It is so difficult to get into Chick-fil-A at lunch, to pick up a prescription, or go to the ATM.
Mhm.
After soccer, coming back from James Long Park, it is easier to go down 66 to Gainesville to get a post-practice snack shake at Chick-fil-A than it is to make a left turn into the Haymarket location. I want to support the businesses, but that area right there is dreadful. How can we improve this intersection? This came from Lori Parker, Gainesville, Virginia. Our second email came from Jacob Heminger. Good morning. I believe I could send you this, but please let me know if I need to direct this to another recipient. I live in the town limits near the Hilton with my wife, Elizabeth, and children, Henry, age 3, Henry's age 5, Owen's age 3, and Margaret, age 1.5, with a 4th child on the way. We've been here nearly 3 years and love Haymarket. In regards to the new town park, I respectfully ask those involved with the planning, decision, contracting, consider the new popular and safe style of playgrounds being built. Gone are the days of heavy mulched playgrounds with basic steps up to a middle platform with 1 or 2 slides of varying length and some basic swings. 3 great examples of these playgrounds are 1, Hal and Bernie Hansen Regional Park in Loudon, 2, Rollins Ford Park in Prince William, and 3, Clement Jordy Park in McLean. Sorry for the mispronunciation. The newer playgrounds in numbers 1 and 2, along with the slightly dated number 3, have the wonderful soft absorbent surfaces and are heavily focused on various climbing structures, small hills with artificial grass for small kids to climb, and roll down and rope courses. These playgrounds are incredibly more engaging for longer periods of time for younger and older kids, are safer and much less stressful for parents. I could provide more details on this. The one circular swing at Rollins Ford consistently has a line of kids waiting for their turn. There are many arguments to be made for the playgrounds of this type. For example, they draw visitors from other counties and areas, as they do for my wife and our friends. Also speculate and inarticulately argue, while these playgrounds are more expensive, they would increase area fast food and restaurant traffic, property values as they draw new families to move near. Finally, I note that the splash pads are incredibly popular and our area is woefully underserved, almost exclusively by a small one at the Virginia Gateway Center. I strongly encourage those involved in the process to pay visits to at least Rollins Ford and Hal and Bernie Hansen to tour these, note their features and functions, and observe their popularity and positive impact on the children and parents. Thank you for your time considering this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions there may be. Those were the only two that came in by email.
Okay. Since we do have agenda item on it, we can address them at the agenda item. So we'll move on then with the first agenda item, which is the monthly financial report.
Council and Mayor, two of the main things I have to discuss today on the financial reports is that you'll see on the revenue side, line item 4002, transfer of ARPA funds. We did the second transfer for the second payment on the progress payment for the park sidewalk. That is just a pass-through going on through the contractor. And the other update I had was during the last week, we had the invoice for the 20% grant match of the $40,000 for the $200,000 grant for the water assessment program. In order for us to not delay that payment, I actually did a move of funds from our CIP section, which was the 9410804 Town Hall Museum Security System. I moved $40,000 from there and reallocated it to the 94109 Stormwater Grant Match. And only reason being is because I didn't want to put a hold on this for the timeline that they have. I will include a memo on the regular meeting along with the overview of the project so council can be made aware of. I'm not sure if that was shared with our town manager and council. I'm sure it was, but just for to remind people and just to put it up front for everyone, I will include that information in that. I made this move to also want to mention that we do plan on still continuing working on the security system for the town hall. If and when, we still have funds there that we can still continue the progress. But if and when we do need additional funds, I would just come back to council after speaking to finance to move some of those reserve funds into the budget, as that's what we would have done for this grant down the road. Any questions on that?
Anybody?
Alexander. So Roberto, regarding the security system, if at some point we were able to move forward with the site plan, so are we going to be able to reuse whatever we end up with? I know entrances are going to move and so forth, right?
Right. So that's a very good question. I know right now, to be full transparent, I know that conversation was being had with the town manager before she went on her maternity leave with the chief. I think the conversation and the chief and I will reconnect, but we do want to have that discussion as to how it would affect the security cameras. Some of them would be exterior. Those won't change much as the building itself won't change as much. But when it comes to the interior, yes, the chief and I will reconnect because we have to discuss that if it's something they can easily implement now, if we were to move now before the renovations, and if they could be reused, repurposed once those renovations are done, or is it something that we should wait for interior wise at least?
Okay.
So we will have those discussions. As of right now, we haven't. It's been all of discussion and logistics. That's part of the conversation right now. So there's no plans on executing anything as of yet before we talk to the finance and we have a clear direction as to how many cameras in the system, how it would work.
Anybody else?
Open to Additional questions or go ahead?
Oh, I was just going to say, so on line item 111001, the convention and education, we're addressing that as well.
Yes, we are going to address that. Apologies with the sudden departure of our town manager. It was something I didn't get to clarify with her as to what we were going to do. But I believe the final discussion with her, I just need to bring it back up to finance, is that we are going to move some of the salary and wages within the town council's own budget section, department section. We're going to move some of those funds over to offset the cost. Looking historically at how many meetings we've had, and when it comes to budgets, I try to line them up with our work sessions. We should be okay by moving some funds that we have, some available funds that we can move over to the convention education to offset that. And if need be, we would look to our reserves to pull that difference if we need to, but I don't think we're there yet. So I think that's going to be the initial conversation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I do have a question about that, actually. So I see the convention and education line item, we've exceeded the budget, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, the meals and lodging, we're only at 7.3%. So what convention and education line item, what is it supposed to cover? The fees? Or does it also include lodging and meals?
So it's supposed to cover the fees of the fees, the annual dues, and any additional classes or courses that you may want to take.
Okay.
But you're right.
So,
We have not I have not reconciled the final credit cards for that month. So once I finalize that, reconcile that, those may move around a bit, but I know that we're still going to be over because we do have some upcoming educational in January that we're going to have to address as well.
yeah, based on the amount for the convention and education line item, I would have thought that the meals and lodging would also be, higher than what it is, right?
Well, and some conventions, they do include meals, not all of them. So we always have to also preemptively think of those potential per diems that we have to give, that we offer.
Question about that.
Yeah, a couple of questions, actually. Looking at on the income side, revenue town events, I see revenue for town hats and sweatshirts. Just curious on the expense side, what is the cost of those goods? Where is that reflected on the expense side? Is it reflected anywhere?
Yes, it is reflected on the town expenditures, and it would be within the line item of. Let me get there right now. It would be under the events other.
Events other.
Number?
7111004.
Page 5.
Okay. Okay, so it's all in there, okay. I'm assuming we make some profit.
So we don't make profit
don't-
because the
we don't.
game is, the thought is not to make profit, but we do, we
Cover the
do
cost.
cover the cost,
Okay.
and anything that's above that, we put it right back into the events to continue with the events revenues. Put it right back into the town.
All right, just curious, Roberto, on the expense side, the museum, I know we have a budget of 2,200 for telecommunications. So what telecommunication expense do we have at the museum?
So we currently have an old fire system, alarm system that works there, and we have to maintain a line in order for it to work. That is something that I know the town manager has looked into, see if we can get away with it, get away from that system and probably update the system, upgrade the system. I don't know where she's at on that, but I can look into it. But that's basically what the telecommunication is. It's for a phone line and dedicated for the fire alarm up there.
Landline,
Mhm,
and that's costing us about 2,200 a year.
mhm.
Wow.
Well, that's what we have budgeted, as well as if you remember, we do have the Art Alliance there now too. So I think we may have some costs in there that we need to cover as well.
Good question.
So if you don't mind, if you can look into that, Roberto,
Mhm.
see exactly what that line item is about.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else have anything?
Okay, we'll move on to the strategic plan. Let's open it up for discussion. I mean, we got two good comments, but these comments are kind of outside of the strategic plan since they're at a higher level. One of them falls within the details of planning with the park. The other one's more or less part of
Transportation.
land planning and site plan associated. And I guess any type of impact studies we do when it comes to transportation. So I don't know how these would fit in with the details, but definitely the park subject will be something coming up soon for discussion, that's for sure. I don't know if we have any intentions on doing some impact studies for traffic.
That was what I was going to ask, if there was a way that we could do an updated, I know VDOT does that, correct? So request that, because I've noticed additional traffic as well. So,
And that's not even built out yet,
right,
so it's gonna get worse.
well, and like with the big trucks too.
Yeah. Well, I have a comment. Oh, go ahead. Oh, wait.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate the comments. I think that while the strategic plan was really focused on guidance for our staff, I think that community input into the nitty-gritty of these items that are listed here are really important. I do see the traffic safety plan initiative that we discussed, where we would use the Safe Streets for All grant. And then we were hoping, I think the takeaway was to touch base with VDOT. So I do want to go on recorded record, because I know that our retreat was kind of more relaxed and not recorded. I do want to put on record that we did plan to meet with VDOT and address the traffic concerns, which obviously we absolutely want to support our in-town businesses. So it would be a twofer for me, safety and supporting the businesses. For the completion and implementation of the town park, I love this feedback that we got. If I recall, I think many years ago when I signed on, I did talk about changing the mulch to something more cushiony and solid, like the rubbered mat kind of surface that we see at Crescent Hill. Is that what it's called? Madison Crescent, that's what it's called. And I think in the discussions, the town manager had mentioned the cost was a huge, huge thing. But I do appreciate this constituent of ours advocating for that as well, and seeing the value in it as well. Because, with 4 children, a playground close by that's safe and engaging is a wonderful amenity to provide for our residents here. So I really appreciate them, and I hope that we can take this and use it alongside with our strategic plan, because those are certainly topics that we care about.
All right, I have a couple comments. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the first comment, are we allowed to say who it's from? Does it matter? From Ms. Parker?
I'm sorry.
It's on record.
Yeah, she read the names.
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
record.
Oh, it's not, yeah. So I see that as not just land use, but definitely a transportation issue. And if you go to our strategic goals and strategies, 1.4, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more after I'm done. I think we can tie some of those studies into that objective. Right? So we're talking about collaborating with, this is for the audience and anybody else who's listening. One of our strategic objectives is to collaborate with county supervisor, as well as our council members, town manager, chief of police, partners at the state level, as well as VDOT to improve traffic safety, including bike, rail, and pedestrian issues. Also, a traffic safety plan initiative we want to consider, and Emily was talking about the Safe Streets program, Safe Streets for All grant program. I kind of see those kind of all being part of a summit, so to speak, transportation summit and infrastructure for the town, where we bring everybody together and start to identify some of those issues. And I think what she's talking about here is trying to rationalize the traffic at the west end of town, which is challenging. There's no doubt about it, particularly folks coming out of Chick-fil-A, making that left turn into traffic. I mean, that's for me, that's a pretty dangerous move if you're not careful. I mean, we have a lot of conflicting movements down there, let's face it. And in some ways, I think we kind of expected to have these issues. So we may have to look at it systematically, to look at it as a system, essentially, and how it all works together down there. So I think we can incorporate those comments into those goals. And relative to the playground, well, we've talked about that, about completing the playground, right? I forget where it is here in our, complete the implementation of the town park, right, 1.1. Yeah, I think we can look into that. Why not? Do we have to get rid of what we have now, or can we expand on it? I guess maybe that's a question. Do we have the space? I guess we have to consider a site plan, maybe an update in order to incorporate this. But, these are a lot of good thoughts, and we've always been very keen on finishing the town park. That for us is a biggie. At least that's what we've always agreed to. And I think it's reflected in the goals and strategies. So I think that can be incorporated into number 1.1 of our strategic business plan. So again, I agree with the Councilwoman Ramirez. These are really good comments. Wish we could get some more, but this is good. At least we got some feedback, right? I do have a couple comments of my own about the SBP, and I want staff and others to consider maybe consolidating a couple of these under item number 1. Our goal is to develop transportation and infrastructure to improve quality of life and maintain small town feel. Seems to me, and I could be wrong unless, council thinks we need to have them segregated. We're talking about investigating in number 1.3, investigating, evaluate, and assess the feasibility of a municipal parking lot, right? Which I think we've all agreed was like, what, number 2 or number 3 on our list. Then we're also talking about considering options for secure parking lot for police department, utility workshop, and municipal parking. Seems to me we can consolidate those two because it's really essentially, the same objective, except 1.6 expands it, not just municipal, but it also includes the PD and others. So just a thought I throw out there for council consideration. The other two, 1.4 and 1.5, seems to me that we can consolidate those as well. Unless we want to have those separate. Because they're really all talking, those two are talking about transportation and public safety, right? We're talking about traffic safety plan. We're talking about rationalizing some of the traffic movements on the west end of town, pedestrian safety, crossing the streets and what have you. So in my view, it all collapses. It's all one big study, unless we want to separate it, which is, there can be an argument for that too. So those are my only comments on the SBP. Other than that, I think, I hope to hear, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll get a couple more comments before we adopt it. Thank you.
Yeah, just had one comment on Ms. Parker's note too, just for just one of the things I was thinking of as I was kind of reading this again was I know that Chick-fil-A is, I believe, the owners of Chick-fil-A are looking to expand their drive-through. These might be comments that are good for us to consider as we look at that, and maybe for the that owner as well to to be aware of these comments from residents about the difficulty, and particularly for them just to read they go to Gainesville instead of Haymarket because it's easier. So that might be something that we might want to share with that business owner as they look to expand that traffic there as well.
Unfortunately, it's the same operator.
Same owner. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
For both
Yeah.
locations.
But still, no, that's a good point, though. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Can I say something to that? I mean, that's an excellent point, and I think it really speaks to us and the need to rationalize the traffic flow down there on the west end. Because one of the things that's always bothered me is the internal traffic flow of these different areas, right? Like Sheets, and a lot of that traffic comes out onto Washington Street. They make a U-turn to go back to 15, to go to 66 or wherever. I mean, it seems to me that it's just as easy if they had internal wayfinding signage to get them out to 15 directly from Sheets if they're going to be going north. Now, I understand that some people may want to, well, I got to go to the CVS. Okay, but are there better and safer ways of doing that? Like maybe going up to the traffic light, making the left into Crossroads Village, and then using the internal circulation to get down to the other stores. I mean, they're talking about interparcel connectors, right?
Mhm.
So it seems to me we've got to really think about how that all flows a little bit better to make it safer.
Right now it's a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say for me personally, I kind of agree with Miss Parker. I avoid it. And
Or walk.
whenever I can.
I was gonna say,
Well, I would, that too.
And it is, so things are gonna get worse, not better. Right.
Something to consider. Great
Uh,
comments.
But in terms of addressing Ms. Parker's comment in 1.4, I think we can easily do that by amending it to read to improve traffic flow and safety, right?
Okay.
put the flow in there.
Yep.
Or traffic operation, right? Traffic flow.
But the comment I have is that goal there for some reason is just develop transportation.
Excuse me.
We're not developing transportation, right? Develop transportation and improve and infrastructure to improve. I don't know. To me, I don't think we're developing infrastructure or intend to develop, transportation. What might make sense to me is improve quality of life and maintain small town feel through strategic investments. That's.
May I counter with another proposal? I agree with you, starting with improve quality of life and maintain small town feel to improve transportation and infrastructure. Because I think while we may be developing some site plans for the town park, a lot of these have to do with improvements upon and collaborations. So maybe develop is not the right word. So I would agree with you on that.
So-
Improve.
Because may I just speak on that? So the develop a transportation infrastructure, improve quality of life. I think too, when we were in that meeting, the discussion was also addressing the sidewalks, the lack of sidewalks. That's infrastructure. So when we include the infrastructure as these sidewalks over here, the potential turn lane that could go on this project, the repair of the existing sidewalk, is kind of where I think that infrastructure work came in, because those are items we're gonna have to address. And eventually, if the goal with, now that we're committed to this grant, for the assessment, that's an infrastructure that we're going to have to address as well, once we get the report back.
And
I think that was kind of the thought when we had that meeting.
my issue is
Councilman.
mostly about the transportation, developed transportation part, more than the infrastructure.
Like the word develop.
No,
is
the
issue.
transportation itself,
Oh.
developed transportation, what are,
Well,
Well,
we're
what-
developing improvements to
I was
transportation.
just gonna say, I feel like the word improvement,
Because the transportation is the bike, rail, and pedestrian. That's the forms of transportation we hope to develop and improve, right? Because we want to make sure we have bike lanes through the whole town. I think that was part of the discussion, right?
Yes.
And ensure the sidewalks, as Roberto said. And then I think that we're always going to advocate for safer rail crossings for our town. And those be improved as far as infrastructure. So I think that's where it was coming from. And I kind of agree with you. The word develop, like starting with the word develop, feels like we're starting from scratch. So I agree with your perspective on that. So I'm just wondering how we can articulate it a little bit differently and maybe have it be improve quality of life and small town feel to start like you had suggested, but not completely take out transportation
well, and
and infrastructure.
utilizing, maintaining our current infrastructure.
or
Yeah.
how about through transportation and infrastructure investments or something?
Okay.
Along that line.
Or maintain quality of life and small town feel through improvements to transportation and infrastructure. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I mean, this whole goal with the underlying strategies isn't just for town, I think. I think we have to be aware. It's, again, I talk about systems, right? The network. It's not just Washington Street and rationalizing the traffic here. It's what can we do outside town that can help impact Washington Street and traffic flow through town. So in other words, the whole thing we talked about at the retreat, or at least I talked about it in my opinion, is there's got to be a way that we can improve things on 55 by diverting traffic to parallel road networks, i.e. Somerset Road or perhaps Heathcote, because they're more designed, they've got the capacity versus what we have here in town. So I don't think it's just in town, it's outside town. And that's why we have to have all the players involved. So what we're really doing is developing plans for improvement. So if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, especially as other businesses are coming in within our 1 mile scope of town.
So.
Sure.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I like the whole bike lane. Oh.
Podium where there's a mic.
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, okay.
Name, address, number. Name, address, number.
Oh, do I have to? It's on, okay. The whole bike lane, I love that idea because I do like to go biking. And I live in the town of Haymarket, and as I'm driving and I'm looking at the existing bike lane, I would never use it because of the traffic. And the thought of having the bike lane go all the way down 55, in theory, is lovely. But the reality and practicality of it, it frightens me.
Mhm.
And that's, I don't have the answer, obviously. But, talking about the traffic at the West End, every time a new business comes in, which is great, like the fitness place. But when that came in, oh my gosh, just trying to find parking at Aldi's and everything. So that's my 2 cents worth. But that whole bike lane is just very precarious for safety issues. And even the crosswalks, like where it says to stop, some people just walk right through it, like the cars are gonna really stop. And people have 18,000 things going on in their heads, and some people stop and some don't. And I don't fault them for that, because if they're not familiar with 55, all of a sudden there's a person in the street, and I've seen it. So just something else to be aware of with the traffic, the bikes, the people, and trying to maintain that small town feel of Haymarket, and, having people walking the sidewalks, taking their kids to the park with all this other stuff going on. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So what's the plan going forward with this?
What was
I
the?
I feel, aren't we discussing it and looking to adopt it next week?
Yeah, I just want to get it on the record.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry.
Well, in 2
We're
weeks, 2
discussing
weeks.
it
2 weeks.
in 2
Yeah.
weeks. Sorry.
So,
Yes, the plan is to discuss it, take any comments, any edits council may want to discuss, agree on. Probably have a discussion again on
December 2nd.
December 2nd, and then take a vote on it.
So we have a couple of weeks before we discuss it again. Can we do a little bit more outreach yet again? Maybe just see if we can get more folks to give us some feedback. I mean, I saw your email this morning, Madam Clerk, and didn't get a chance to talk to anybody, but I will. I'll ask some of my neighbors, have you seen it and do you have any comments? So that gives us a couple weeks to do that, and maybe we can get additional feedback.
Yeah. I think that'll be helpful. The reason why we also sent that is because we were made of aware. Some residents, they came in last week and they were asked if they received it, and they said, "Oh, I must have thrown it away." Or so because we have tried the paper route of sending it out to residents also on the website. So yeah, we'll hoping to get more.
Talk with the mayor, so we've tried, yeah. Tracy, Lynn, you have a comment?
I was just gonna piggyback on what Joe was saying in regards to making certain that we still keep the line of communication open. Is there a way that we can maybe utilize the app and a QR code and get that as a push?
I believe we have done a push on it
Okay,
on that website. So on the
on the app.
app, I can go ahead and have Julia send another one early this week, and then towards the end of this week and next week.
Yeah, I received a notification from the app.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
We got it.
I was just trying to figure out a way to make it easier for people to just, if we QR code it and then they had it right there or something along those lines.
I mean, one feedback comment I received is that these strategies are not descriptive enough. They require some sort of inside knowledge. For example, Traffic Safety Plan Initiative, Prince William County's Safe Street for All Grant, VDOT.
What does that mean?
Unless you know what it,
Right.
there are other things, similar things that some residents said, "Oh, what is this?" Right?
Yeah.
What is this supposed to be? They don't have the details like
Right.
we do, right?
Right.
So
So how would we like to communicate that? I wonder if we should noodle on that a bit as a council and see how we want to kind of promote these subjects and raise awareness to what we're hoping to do. Because obviously, staff's got a lot of things to do. So if our neighbors are asking us for an explanation, maybe we need to decide how we want to present that as a whole and communicate that, or know everyone have the same resources
it's
to
like-
provide to keep everybody on the same page.
That we're all saying the same thing. The definitions are important.
Are you done?
I'll wait for you.
done.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the only other comment that I had in conversation was a spelled out high level estimate timeline would show transparency in all of our goals. So that was what was sent to me.
I have a comment. Okay.
Good.
To your point, and I think it's a good point. Perhaps under each one of these items, we might want to consider expanding some kind of a narrative, some explanatory narrative. I think the way this is developed is meant to be succinct, right? It's not supposed to be
Yeah.
expansive.
no, I understand.
No, I know you do. But, if you've seen other SBPs, and we've seen a lot of those out there, they tend to have these succinct statements. This is the overarching objective or whatever strategy. And then there's a little bit of a discussion or narrative behind it, what that really all means. So you might want to consider that. That's going to be something that would need to be developed. We could develop it over the next few months or whatever, lay it out. We can talk to Stephanie a little bit and see what her thoughts are on that based on the discussion we had at the retreat. But, that would be something that we might want to consider. Excuse me. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, if we are looking for the residents to provide their comments, feedback, specifically in relation to strategies, right? I think we need to provide them a little bit more information. How are they supposed to consider
Mhm,
what our strategies are
mhm.
and provide their comments or
They're not
feedback,
my
right?
neighbors.
They're not,
Yeah, you're right. No,
right?
I agree with you. That's a good point.
Okay, if they were to have additional information, they may agree or may not agree, right?
Yeah.
And they w- give their feedback.
Well, I'm just wondering if, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just wondering if through Stephanie's notes from that day, if she captured a lot of that discussion, right? So we don't have to go recreating it. We did talk quite a bit about the different initiatives, I think. So is that something you can do and reach out to her? ATM, acting town manager?
I mean, I can try to reach out to her on it, see what her take is on it. But looking at this list too, though, with the exception of that traffic safety plant initiative, Prince William County Safety Streets and for All grant, I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory, but that one specifically, yes. And maybe is it as easy as to just also include a link where you can click on and it'll take you directly to the Prince William County website. It kind of explains what that is. Because I quickly did that, copy and paste, and you can find the information right there. It's right there. Maybe I can ask Stephanie if that's something we could do, at least on the PDF version that's going to be posted digitally. So there are links if you want to get more information on it. For example, funding and implementing of the town hall site plan. I mean, that discussion I don't think really has begun yet to have more information into that. I will reach out to Stephanie and get her thoughts behind it and see if there's any notes or what she recommends. What I could do is I could share that via email before the next meeting for you guys to discuss.
Did you have something else, Tracy?
No, that was it.
Okay, so who's the owner of this document? Well, we are as a whole, but I mean, who's our scribe? Because we got discussions on what we need edited for the next round, right?
Mhm.
I mean, do we agree on some of the others?
That's what I need to come up with. Once I find out who's our scribe over there for this document.
Can you?
Going through.
Rock, paper, scissors? Rock, paper, scissors?
Things you want to consolidate?
Okay. So I think in the conversation, I believe the sections 1.3 and 1.6 wanted to be combined in some way.
Suggestion.
That is a suggestion. So you guys want to think about
Do
that.
we have a scribe? Because then we can start directing this stuff out. You just want to take it as a whole as whatever directive we discuss?
Yeah, because 1.3 and 1.6. 1.3 is investigate, evaluate, and assess the feasibility of a municipal parking lot. And then combine it with 1.6, consider options for secure parking for parking lot for a police department, utility, workshop, municipal parking.
Okay.
So
It's all the same subject matter.
Yeah, you can kind of do like an IE and then just consult and combine the 1.6 to the end of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it really quick, I can say, would you guys be amenable to investigate, evaluate, and execute secure parking lot for police department, utility, workshop, and municipal parking? Something in those lines?
Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah.
Personally, I think
Something-
that works.
Something
Well,
simple
that's
like
what I'll
that.
do. Once we know who's going to do this, and we can ask any objections on if we consolidate those two and get some flow wording for it.
No objection, but I do have just a thought to put out there. I think 1.3 stood alone in the sense because that is part of our CIP. That is something that we as a council decided was a priority to do, like the securing land and assessing the feasibility of that and the finances behind that. And that's just like one really big singular task that we wish to tackle. So that's just to put, again, not that I object to not consolidating them. It's just, I think that being a CIP item, I think that's why it stood alone. But you're right, it is a bit redundant when it's also included in 1.6. So I'd be fine with, blending the two, consolidating them, that's fine. But I do want to make note that we do have that one specific CIP item for municipal parking.
Yeah, and I think 1.3 can be expanded out by just including the consideration of the options for secure parking lot for the police,
Mhm.
blah, 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 right?
Mhm.
So it expands out that thought to
Mhm.
tackling these topic areas. Reminding me of the argument with the VML session we had when we were approving the VML policies. Yeah, so if there's no objections, if we just consolidate, saying including the consideration for, that'll help who's ever directing there. What was the other one?
The other one was combining 1.4 and 1.5. 1.4, just for the audience, collaborate with county supervisor, council members, town manager, chief of police, partners at state level, VDOT to improve traffic safety, including bike, rail, and pedestrian. In combining that with 1.5, which is traffic safety plan initiative, Prince William County Safe Streets for All Grant, VDOT.
I kind of like to keep them separate because one's talking about collaboration with all the people and the other one specifically for traffic safety planning initiative. Granted, it should include, but they are kind of separate topics.
I would,
Wouldn't you agree?
I think they're separate, but I think on 1.5, and I think this kind of leads to some of the stuff that Alexander was talking about, everything else kind of has a kind of an action word at the beginning of it. We're going to complete this. We're going to enact this. 1.5 is just a kind of a listing of an initiative. What are we doing with that initiative? I think if I'm reading it, I kind of agree. I think I agree 1.4 is the collaboration. Is 1.5, are we going to implement the traffic safety plan initiative from PWC, Safe Streets? What are we going to do with it?
Roberto, do you remember that discussion? Because I think Emily raised that.
I think it was to investigate or to look into that.
I think it was investigate.
Okay. There's an action word for you.
So you want to use investigate
Investigate.
for 1.5?
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Investigate the feasibility of implementing the traffic safety plan initiative.
Okay. And we'll keep it separate. We'll
I
keep
believe it should be separate personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Utilizing a grant, yes. It's specific.
And then we talked about 1.4 potentially to address the comment, and which is a valid comment, to
Ms.
read, VDOT to improve traffic flow and safety, right? I don't know what your thoughts are, but
Yeah, I think
that's
we
fine.
would agree to that as well.
Yeah.
And
We
flow
did.
and
We did.
safety. Mhm.
That's what I have in my notes. And the last directive, the goal title for one.
yeah, I'm good with what Joe proposed, which was improve quality of life and maintain small town feel through improvements to transportation and infrastructure.
Is that capturable, clerk?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what he said. I didn't hear what he said.
Okay, that's changing the goal to read improve quality of life and maintain small town feel through improvements to transportation and infrastructure.
Okay. And just as a directive on top of that, any type of free-for-all descriptive that you may feel fits, right? Because I think that's all encompassing, trying to make sure that our communication is legible to the constituencies, right?
Yes.
Can I just ask one question? Sorry.
Yeah,
I think it's
please.
great, but on that one goal, could we consider, or maybe just trying to simplify it, improve transportation infrastructure to maintain quality of life and small town feel? So we're not having to rewrite it, because I think improve came up a couple of times, and during our strategic planning, we were trying to avoid using the same word again.
Mhm.
Not that specific word, but if you recall, I think
Mhm.
Mr. Councilman Gallagher at one time brought it up in one of the statements, or why we repeat the same word over and
Over and
over.
over and over.
Yeah.
So did you just say improve transportation and infrastructure to maintain quality of life and small town feel?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys are open to that, just a
I'm
thought.
open to it.
Yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, Susan.
Concur.
That seems to capture it, right?
And infrastructure to improve quality of life.
To maintain quality of life and small town feel. No?
To maintain,
No?
How's your quality of life?
we want to maintain it, not improve it? Our
Improve
quality
it?
of
Sure,
life?
we always want to improve it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that could work. A lot of ways of looking at that.
Can we say that sentence again?
Go ahead, Roberto.
So if I'm hearing it, Councilman Bayana, you're saying you would like to see improved transportation and infrastructure to maintain quality of life and maintain small town feel.
Enhance, maybe enhance quality of life, okay, and maintain small town feel,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, that's better.
so that we don't repeat, improve.
Or maintain.
Just improve.
Yeah, that looks.
Yeah, that works. That's good.
Transportation and infrastructure to enhance quality of life and maintain small town feel.
What does our audience think? Excellent. There you go. What do we call that?
Okay, I think we got all the action items out from our discussion then.
So all the directives.
They
Yeah.
call that, what, synergistic?
So any more discussions on this? Or shall we move on? Okay, we'll move on.
It literally have, I've been looking at it because I know what Roberto said. I was at it. This would then be the third of the 3 of the 6 will now have the word enhance in it.
Okay.
That was, we were looking for different words because we have enhanced public safety and community policing as number 3. We have enhanced community engagement as number 6. It's just, everybody's gonna look at us and go, well, we just want to enhance everything. That's my fear. I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like we're making it, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I just feel like with that, adding the to enhance just makes it more complex than it needs to be. We are starting with improve because I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to improve it.
Well, improving and enhancing are, I know. They're equal, so I feel like if you're, not equal, but they're directing to the same thing, right? So you could drop enhance and use improve.
Yeah.
Because improving
Ca-
quality of life.
Can we use enrich?
Enrich.
Compliment.
Because I don't have my thesaurus open here, but
I have it open now.
Dude, the tasking is, Councilmember Gallagher, you can bring the thesaurus.
I was gonna go to
We'll change
ChatGPT
it.
next.
Yeah.
I actually, strengthen I like. I just don't want to use the word enhance again.
Yeah.
Elevate.
It's not elevate.
Now, elevate quality of life.
I like enrich.
Yeah, well,
Enrich
if
seems
we
to
cover
work.
infrastructure.
I like
amenities,
enrich. I like enrich.
Enrich quality of life. So how is it gonna read?
Well,
now?
the definition of enrich is,
Okay, so it's gonna read.
Oh, I have
Improve
one in here.
transportation and infrastructure
To enrich.
to enrich quality of life and maintain small town feel.
Okay.
did you say?
I
Say
like
that,
enrich.
can you read that
I
one
like
more time? Could you read that one more time? Just, let's beat it to death.
Improve transportation and infrastructure to enrich quality of life
Yeah.
and maintain a small town feel.
Well, if you look up enrich, it does say improve or enhance the quality or value of something.
Perfect.
Okay.
I love
yeah.
Enrich.
For the audience, what you just got is a cliff note of what happened for our strategic planning session, which was 8 hours. Talk about a grueling day.
It sounds like this always is.
Okay, good.
I'm good.
Okay, we'll move on to the meeting schedule.
Okay, in your agenda packet, you do have a draft of the 2025 meeting schedule that I would like to go ahead and put on our website. It is up to you whether you go ahead and schedule the meeting in November for Thanksgiving and the meeting in December around between Christmas and New Year, or we can do what we've done in the past, such as this year, and decide to, I'll plug those dates in and we can address it in September, October as to what we're going to do with those two meeting dates.
Anybody have any objection to putting it off until we get closer to it?
I did check the March, April meetings against Prince William County school calendar, and they do not conflict.
Okay, good. So what were the ones that you had a question about? Just the ones that you?
The November work session, which would be November 24th. This would be the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, that's not. Yeah. And then.
And then the December 29th meeting, which is the week between Christmas and New Year's, that would also be your work session.
Right.
And also, we got a TBD for the December 16th work session of this
Right,
year.
right. And
What's the likelihood of that? What are we looking at on our
I am
agenda?
trying to get everything into the December 2nd regular meeting for you to
Oh.
determine on the 2nd whether you want to cancel that December 16th work session.
Yep. And December 2nd is going to be a heavy meeting. There's a lot of
Yes,
stuff
it will.
going on.
Okay.
So I'm perfectly fine with waiting, and that way we can assess everybody's schedule as well.
Things change, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be in charge then.
Okay. Thanks for double checking with the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so that looks good for
Okay.
our meeting to adopt.
Okay, I'll put it on the website. Thank you.
So the December 16th potential for work session this year,
Right.
Mhm.
what's the consensus?
I think we're looking to drop
I
it.
think the
Do
only
you-
thing that's going to hold you is what you just discussed, the strategic plan, whether we get it adopted on December 2nd.
Are we able to adopt it during a work session? Okay. Okay.
It's not typical, but you can.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've given participation opportunities enough for it so that we could if we wanted to. Usually, we don't make a decision on a work session
Right.
because we want to give a week's
Right.
opportunity for preparation for the any town citizen to comment or
Right.
try to influence the decision. Okay, that's it for the meeting schedule. Next
Move to
item.
adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?